No one warned them that love could be tested in ways they had never imagined. Before the twins arrived, they believed they were prepared for parenthood. They had read the books, attended the classes, and dreamed about the beautiful chaos of raising children together. But when two newborns entered their world at the same time, every weakness hidden beneath the surface of their marriage began to emerge. Sleepless nights turned into endless arguments. Small frustrations became painful wounds. The couple who once laughed together now struggled to remember why they had fallen in love in the first place. This is not just a story about becoming parents of twins. It is a story about a marriage pushed to the breaking point, a relationship that almost collapsed under the weight of exhaustion, and the difficult journey back to each other. The arrival of children is often described as one of life's greatest blessings, but few people talk openly about the emotional storms that can follow. For parents of twins, those challenges can feel doubled, creating pressures that affect every part of family life. In today's story, we follow a couple whose marriage nearly ended after the birth of their twins. Their journey reveals the realities of stress, sacrifice, resentment, and ultimately the power of rebuilding what seemed impossible to save. If you enjoy inspiring stories about family, resilience, and personal growth, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us continue bringing meaningful stories that touch hearts and remind us that even the strongest storms can eventually lead to brighter days. The day they learned they were expecting twins, excitement filled every corner of their lives. Friends celebrated with them, family members offered congratulations, and they imagined a future overflowing with laughter, milestones, and unforgettable memories. The news felt like a gift, something extraordinary that would strengthen their bond and bring them even closer together. They spent months preparing the nursery, organizing schedules, and discussing how they would share responsibilities. Every challenge ahead seemed manageable because they believed they would face it as a team. Yet beneath the excitement lived an invisible reality neither of them fully understood. The arrival of one child changes a family forever, but the arrival of two at once creates a completely different experience. As the due date approached, they focused on the joy ahead without realizing that the greatest test of their relationship was waiting just beyond the hospital doors, hidden behind sleepless nights and relentless responsibility. The first weeks after the twins were born felt like living inside a storm that never paused. Days blended into nights, and nights disappeared into mornings without either parent truly resting. Feeding schedules overlapped endlessly, diapers seemed never-ending, and moments of silence became almost impossible to find. Every task required energy they no longer possessed. Their conversations slowly shifted away from affection and connection, becoming focused entirely on survival. Instead of asking each other how they felt, they discussed bottles, laundry, appointments, and sleep schedules. The emotional intimacy that once came naturally began to fade beneath layers of exhaustion. Each partner secretly believed they were carrying more of the burden. Neither felt appreciated, neither felt understood. The twins needed constant attention, and while both parents loved them deeply, the overwhelming demands of caring for two newborns simultaneously began creating cracks in a marriage that had once seemed unshakable. As the months passed, exhaustion evolved into resentment. Small disagreements that once would have been forgotten within minutes now lingered for days. Simple misunderstandings became major arguments. One partner felt abandoned and unsupported, while the other felt criticized and unrecognized despite their efforts. Every conversation carried tension. Every request sounded like a complaint. The pressure of caring for twins left little room for patience, empathy, or emotional generosity. They stopped seeing each other as teammates and slowly began viewing each other as obstacles, standing in the way of much-needed rest. The home that once felt warm and welcoming became filled with frustration and disappointment. Family and friends noticed subtle changes but rarely understood the depth of the struggle. From the outside, they appeared to be managing. Behind closed doors, however, they were fighting battles that neither expected. Their marriage was no longer thriving. It was merely surviving, and even survival was becoming increasingly difficult. The hardest part was not the lack of sleep or the endless responsibilities. It was the loneliness they experienced while standing only a few feet apart. Both felt isolated within the relationship. Both believed the other person no longer understood their pain. The emotional distance grew gradually, almost invisibly, until one day they realized they could spend entire evenings together without truly connecting. Their shared dreams and future plans disappeared beneath immediate concerns. Conversations lacked depth. Affection became rare. Laughter almost vanished entirely. They loved their children more than anything, yet they struggled to remember how to love each other through the chaos. Every day felt like another step away from the partnership they once cherished. The twins had become the center of their universe, leaving almost no space for the marriage itself. Without realizing it, they had stopped nurturing the very foundation that supported their growing family. One evening, after another exhausting argument, they confronted a painful truth neither wanted to admit. Their marriage was in serious danger. The realization arrived not during a dramatic confrontation but during a quiet moment of reflection. They recognized that continuing on the same path would eventually destroy the relationship they had worked so hard to build. For the first time, they stopped blaming each other and began examining the circumstances surrounding their struggle. The problem was not a lack of love. The problem was that both had become overwhelmed by demands exceeding their emotional and physical limits. Acknowledging this truth did not solve anything immediately, but it changed the direction of their thinking. Instead of viewing each other as enemies, they started recognizing a shared challenge. That shift in perspective became the first small step toward rebuilding trust, understanding, and cooperation within a relationship that desperately needed healing. Recovery did not happen overnight. There were no magical solutions or dramatic breakthroughs. Instead, progress emerged through small, consistent actions repeated day after day. They began creating opportunities for honest communication, even if only for a few minutes each evening. They practiced expressing appreciation for each other's efforts rather than focusing solely on mistakes. They learned to ask for help without guilt and accept support without feeling inadequate. Gradually, they stopped competing over who was more exhausted and started working together again. Every small improvement strengthened their connection. Every act of kindness helped repair damaged trust. The twins continued demanding enormous amounts of energy, but the parents slowly became better equipped to face those demands as partners. Although challenges remained, they discovered that rebuilding a marriage requires the same qualities needed to raise children successfully: patience, consistency, forgiveness, and unwavering commitment. As their relationship improved, they gained a deeper understanding of the unrealistic expectations they had placed upon themselves. They had believed good parents should always remain patient, strong, and capable. They had assumed a healthy marriage would naturally survive any challenge without requiring intentional effort. Reality taught them otherwise. Parenthood exposed vulnerabilities they never knew existed. It forced them to confront fears, insecurities, and emotional habits developed long before the twins were born. Rather than viewing these discoveries as failures, they gradually learned to see them as opportunities for growth. Every obstacle became a lesson. Every conflict revealed areas requiring attention and healing. Through this process, they stopped chasing perfection and began embracing progress. That shift reduced pressure, increased compassion, and created space for both partners to evolve individually while strengthening the relationship they shared. The twins themselves unknowingly played an important role in the healing process. As they grew older, moments of joy became more frequent. Smiles replaced cries. Playfulness replaced constant dependency. The parents began witnessing the beautiful family they had imagined before the children were born. They saw evidence that their sacrifices mattered. Watching the twins develop unique personalities reminded them why they had endured so much. More importantly, it reminded them that their children benefited most from parents who supported one another. The marriage was no longer viewed as separate from parenting. It became an essential part of creating a stable, loving environment for the entire family. This realization motivated them to continue investing in their relationship even when life remained busy and demanding. Their bond became stronger not because difficulties disappeared, but because they learned how to face those difficulties together. Years later, they could look back on that difficult chapter with greater clarity. The pain had been real. The conflicts had been serious. The possibility of separation had once seemed frighteningly close, yet surviving those struggles transformed their understanding of love and commitment. They no longer believed strong marriages were defined by the absence of hardship. Instead, they understood that strength emerges through perseverance during hardship. The experience taught them that relationships require constant care, especially during seasons of overwhelming responsibility. It also taught them that asking for help is not weakness but wisdom. Most importantly, they learned that rebuilding is possible even when a relationship feels damaged beyond repair. The same marriage that nearly ended after the arrival of the twins eventually became stronger than it had ever been before, built upon deeper understanding, greater empathy, and a renewed sense of partnership. The story of their marriage serves as a reminder that love is not measured by perfect moments but by the willingness to remain committed through imperfect ones. The arrival of the twins brought challenges neither expected, exposing weaknesses and creating conflicts that nearly destroyed their relationship. Yet those same challenges ultimately became opportunities for growth, resilience, and transformation. By choosing understanding over blame, patience over frustration, and teamwork over division, they discovered a path back to each other. Their journey demonstrates that even when relationships reach their lowest point, hope can still exist. Every struggle carries the possibility of renewal when people remain willing to learn, adapt, and persevere together. Sometimes the strongest families are not those who avoid storms, but those who find the courage to rebuild after the storm has passed. Life rarely unfolds according to our expectations. The challenges that test us most deeply often arrive disguised as blessings, and the arrival of twins became exactly that for this couple. What nearly broke their marriage ultimately revealed strengths they never knew they possessed. Their story reminds us that love is not simply about happiness during easy seasons, but about commitment during difficult ones. Every relationship will face moments of strain, disappointment, and uncertainty. The difference lies in whether we allow those moments to divide us or teach us. Sometimes rebuilding requires more courage than beginning, but the rewards can be extraordinary. When people choose patience, understanding, and perseverance, even relationships that seem beyond repair can find new life, creating a stronger foundation for the future than ever existed before.